vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome back. You're watching Beyond World is One. I'm Shivan Chandna. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest.
I'm Samiksha Srivastava. Well, focus in this edition of our broadcast is the latest that we're tracking from West Asia, where the situation has flared up again after a series of attacks on Saudi and Qatari vessels near the Strait of Hormuz. It's the US that has unleashed new strikes on Iran and reimposed sanctions on Iranian oil sales. The question is, how does this impact the negotiations going forward? We'll get you the latest on the show today.
Also on World DNA, Russia's onslaught of deadly missile attacks over Ukraine, it continues in full momentum now. A series of explosions shook the Ukrainian capital early on Wednesday as a NATO summit is underway in Ankara, where Zelensky and Trump are in attendance. We'll bring you the latest on that. Let's start with the headlines first.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian leaves Iraq, heading back to Tehran after US launches strikes on Iran. He was in Najaf to attend funeral ceremonies of former Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, whose body arrived in the city on Tuesday.
Oil prices surge after the US launched strikes on Iran following attacks on shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Fresh sanctions on Iranian oil exports and multiple vessel attacks heightened supply concerns, pushing the US crude to above $72 and Brent above $74 per barrel.
Multiple explosions strike Kiev as Russia intensifies attacks on the capital during NATO's summit in Turkey. Missile strikes spark fires in several buildings, with officials urging residents to seek shelter days after deadly Russian attacks killed as many as 30 people.
NATO leaders meet in Ankara, announcing major arms deals to boost Europe's defense spending. Trump praises ties with Turkey President Erdogan, revives his Greenland proposal, and then hints at possible further US troop reductions in Europe.
US prosecutors charged Lawrence Bishnoi and Goldie Brar over alleged killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. A wider operation called Operation Hardball also led to 24 arrests linked to India-based crime groups involved in violent crimes.
K2 Airways Boeing cargo plane with 5 crew members goes missing off Karachi after reporting a navigation system issue. Pakistan authorities launch sea search after the radar shows aircraft rapidly descending and losing communication.
Death toll from a landslide in China's northwestern Gansu province rises to 21, a day after it buried 33 people. State media, citing local authorities, says search and rescue operations at the site of landslide have now concluded.
Argentina staged a dramatic comeback to beat Egypt 3-2 and reached the World Cup quarterfinals trailing 2-0. Late in the match, goals from Cristian Romero, Lionel Messi and Enzo Fernandez secured thrilling wins for defending champions. While a 60-day period continues between US and Iran to reach a final conclusion to their negotiations, West Asia has flared up once again. The US has unleashed new strikes against Iran.
Additionally, US has even reimposed sanctions on Iranian oil sales in retaliation for a series of attacks on commercial ships near the Strait of Hormuz.
Now, a US official reportedly told media that it was punishment for Iranian attacks on commercial shipping. Earlier, US military's Central Command said that strikes were intended to impose, and I'm quoting here, heavy costs for targeting international maritime traffic.
Iranian state media reported multiple explosions around the strategic waterway, including on the Qasem Island in Sirik and in the port city of Bandar Abbas. Tehran has strongly condemned the US action.
Now, Iranian state media said several people were injured by shrapnel from enemy projectile, quote-unquote, at a Sirik commercial pier. Iran's foreign ministry accused Washington of violating a recently signed memorandum of understanding and warned that it would take decisive measures to safeguard its national security.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran warns of the consequences of the United States' breach of its commitments and states that it will take whatever measures it deems necessary to safeguard its national interests and security.
The military escalation came just hours after Washington revoked a temporary sanctions waiver that had allowed Iran to export crude oil under limited conditions. Despite the strikes, Washington says that negotiations for a broader agreement with Tehran are still on.
Earlier, Britain's Maritime Security Agency, UKMTO, had reported that 3 commercial vessels were attacked near Oman. One tanker was hit by an unidentified projectile and caught fire, while 2 others were reportedly struck, including one by a drone. Qatar confirmed that one of the targeted vessels was its LNG carrier Al Rikayat and blamed Iran for that attack. Doha has summoned Iran's deputy ambassador, demanding an explanation and calling for an immediate end to actions that undermine regional security. Iran has rejected Qatar's accusations, calling them unacceptable.
Well, the attacks have renewed concerns over freedom of navigation in the Hormuz Strait, which is a vital route for global oil and gas shipments. Oil prices climbed more than 2% following the attacks as markets reacted to fears of fresh disruptions in energy supplies. Shifting focus then, at least 4 people were killed and 18 others injured after 2 bombs exploded near the hotel where French President Emmanuel Macron was staying in Syria.
Now, police officers are among those who were killed in these deadly explosions. The blasts underscore a major security challenge in Syria, where Macron is the first head of state of a European Union country to visit since the rebels led by Shara toppled Bashar al-Assad in 2024.
The explosions struck a busy area between the Syrian Tourism Ministry and the National Museum across the street from the Four Seasons. That is where Macron was meeting civil society groups. Eyewitness video showed smoke rising near the hotel. Syria State News Agency reported that 18 people were injured in the explosions that included 4 police officers.
Now, social media video captured a car on fire near the hotel in Damascus where French president held meetings. But the French president's office said that he did not hear the explosions and he met Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara soon afterwards.
The visit underscores Syria's geopolitical shift under al-Shara, a former al-Qaeda commander who has forged closer ties with Western and Middle Eastern powers that had shunned Assad as he seeks to rebuild a country devastated by 13 years of war. French President Macron, though, again wore his sunglasses indoors. Earlier, Macron wore the aviators inside at the Davos conference in January, with officials explaining the French president had a minor medical issue.
Now, the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, striving to strengthen France-Syria bilateral ties, remarked that he wants France to be a primary partner for Damascus, which he said has regained its role as a transit hub after the Strait of Hormuz closure.
Well, this geopolitical shift in France-Syria relationship was marked by Macron condemning attacks on Syria by its neighboring countries and even promising help to war-torn Syria in rebuilding its economy and banking sector. Macron even hoped for a smooth transition in Damascus from dictatorship to much-needed rule of law.
We now shift focus to the Russia-Ukraine front. Russia continues a heavy assault on Ukraine's capital. A series of explosions shook Kiev early on Wednesday.
A powerful initial blast was heard before the city's air raid sirens were activated. That was followed by 4 more explosions that echoed across the capital city. Kiev mayor said that warehouses were on fire in one district because of a missile strike, while in another, a non-residential building was ablaze.
The northeastern city of Kharkiv also witnessed a strike that, according to its mayor, damaged 20 homes and injured 2 people. The latest strikes follow a deadly day in Ukraine, where Russian attacks killed at least 30 people.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is in Ankara for the NATO summit, urged Ukraine's backers to step up help for the country's air defense.
While Ukraine has largely managed to intercept waves of Russian drones targeting the country, it is increasingly struggling to counter Kremlin's growing use of ballistic missiles against Kiev as its air defense resources dwindle. At the same time, Kiev has stepped up its own long-range strikes inside Russia, systematically targeting critical energy infrastructure.
Omsk oil refinery, which is Russia's largest, halted operations following a Ukrainian drone attack on Monday. It is likely to increase fuel shortage across the country.
And as strikes and counter-strikes continue, US President Donald Trump said that he believed both Russia's Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky want to get the war settled after talking to the leaders.
More than 4 years into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, there are signs of gradual return to normalcy in international sport. The International Olympic Committee has eased some restrictions, thereby allowing athletes to compete in team events and qualification competitions for the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. However, the IOC has kept in place the ban on Russian national anthem being played and the flag being displayed for the time being. Ukraine, however, has slammed the decision as premature and unfounded. In other news then, President Donald Trump has criticized NATO while praising his close ties with Turkish President during his visit to Ankara for the Alliance Summit.
Trump's remarks came as NATO leaders gathered in Turkey for a crucial meeting focused on defense spending, the Iran conflict and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Speaking alongside Erdogan at the Turkish presidential palace, Trump said that he was disappointed with NATO, something he has mentioned a number of times in the past as well, claiming that he came to Turkey only because of Erdogan. Calling Erdogan a strong leader, he said that their relationship was based on chemistry that works.
Well, we're going to see. I was very disappointed with NATO, and frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended.
Trump questioned the support he received from NATO allies during the Iran conflict, saying that the situation tested the alliance's commitment to the U.S.
We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we helped them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, you know, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
Well, Trump was greeted personally by the Turkish president on the tarmac as he descended from Air Force One before being escorted through the streets of the Turkish capital by a guard of riders on white horses. Reports say NATO officials are hoping Trump's close relationship with Erdogan could in fact help ease tensions within the alliance following disagreements over the Iran conflict. Signaling an improvement in bilateral defense ties, Trump announced lifting of sanctions on Turkey, which was issued after Ankara's purchase of Russian missile defense system, the S-400. He said that he is also considering reversing Ankara's ban from the F-35 stealth fighter jet program.
As the first day of high-stakes deliberations drew to a close, Allied world leaders gathered at the presidential complex in Ankara for a formal dinner hosted by the Turkish government. Turkish president welcomed prominent leaders including President Trump, Ukrainian President Zelensky, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and French President Emmanuel Macron. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was also present alongside representatives from across the 32-member alliance.
And for more details, our US correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report from New York.
The NATO summit in Turkey opened with President Trump putting U.S. concerns front and center. He criticized some NATO allies for not doing enough during the recent Iran conflict and renewed his push for NATO members to increase defense spending. Trump also praised Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, saying that he may not have attended if the summit had been hosted elsewhere. In a major signal to Ankara, Trump said sanctions on Turkey would be lifted, a move that could mark a reset in U.S.-Turkey relations. For Washington, the summit is about more than just NATO unity. It's about burden sharing, Ukraine, Iran, and America's role in Europe's security architecture. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
The US President Donald Trump appears to have turned the page on the diplomatic row with Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni.
Well, the relationship faltered last month when Trump had said that Meloni had what he called begged him to take a photo with her at the G7 summit in France.
Well, Meloni had later denied the claim, accusing Trump of fabricating that entire story. Now, on Tuesday, Trump took a more conciliatory tone towards one of Europe's most prominent right-wing leaders. In a joint press conference with Turkish President Erdogan in Ankara, Trump called Meloni a nice person, but blamed her for not helping US with Iran.
We had a bad relationship. It became a little bad because she refused to help us. Again, I didn't put a heavy press on her, but she refused to get involved with the Hormuz Strait, or you could also say just Iran. She refused to get involved. So it soured my relationship with her a little bit. But I like her. I think she's a nice person, actually, but I think she made a mistake.
In March, Italy had denied permission for US military aircraft to land at the air base in Sicily before heading to West Asia, and that was because Washington had not sought prior authorization from the government in Rome. Trump said that he was not happy about Italian Prime Minister's reservations.
She just wasn't there for us, and I wasn't happy about that. You can imagine, I wasn't happy about that.
Now, Trump claimed in remarks to an Italian TV channel that Meloni, quote-unquote, begged him for a photo together at the G7 summit, and he only agreed because he felt sorry for her. Now, this spat prompted an undiplomatic back and forth between Meloni and Trump, which dragged on until a number of days, when Trump published a doctored image of on his Truth Social platform showing Meloni looking at him as if admiringly she's looking at him, accompanied by the words, restraining order needed, quote-unquote.
Meloni also criticized Trump this year for lashing out at Pope Leo over his condemnation of the Iran war. That in turn prompted a blunt rebuke from the US president.
On Monday, Italy's defense minister said that people come and go, but relations must endure, while Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said that he was sure that transatlantic relations go well beyond individual comments. Trump has been highly critical of NATO countries ahead of the Ankara meeting, with allies seeking to showcase growing defense spending in the hope of placating him.
Meanwhile, Belgian Defense Minister has defended Giorgia Meloni in an interview to Politico. The Flemish nationalist minister said that Europe still needed the US to defend the continent for up to another decade.
However, he condemned Trump's attacks on Meloni, asking him to leave her alone. He called Meloni the queen of centre-right in Europe, adding that she was an alpha.
Well, a US scientist linked to a classified quantum physics experiment has disappeared that has fueled speculation about parallel worlds and even hidden dimensions.
Now, this case follows a string of disappearances and even deaths involving at least 10 people connected to sensitive US research, drawing attention from online sleuths and federal investigators alike. So what's really happening? Our next story explores the mystery.
A closed laboratory, a complex experiment, then a story that refuses to disappear. Across social media and internet forums, a dramatic claim has resurfaced. 78-year-old man, Anthony Chavez, allegedly vanished while taking part in a quantum physics experiment at Los Alamos National Laboratory. Police had recovered his car, wallet, cigarettes, and handwritten journal at his home after he vanished into thin air in May of last year. The mysterious disappearance is leading to online speculation that he slipped into another dimension or triggered an unknown scientific phenomenon. This also comes in the back of roughly a dozen scientists who have died or mysteriously vanished in recent years. The FBI, NASA, and other American agencies are trying to identify if these is a connection in the disappearance and mysterious deaths of these scientists who had a connection to U.S. nuclear secrets or rocket technology. It sounds like science fiction, and according to researchers, that is exactly what it is. There is no verified evidence that any person has ever disappeared during a quantum physics experiment. Experts are of the opinion that the story is a mix of internet folklore, misunderstood scientific concepts, and speculation that has grown with every retelling. So why does it sound believable? Because quantum physics itself is one of the strangest branches of science. Unlike everyday physics, which explains how footballs, cars, or planets move, quantum physics explores the invisible world of atoms and the tiny particles that make up everything around us from a radical new prism. At this microscopic scale, nature behaves in ways that seem impossible. Particles can exist in several possible states until they are measured. Two particles can remain linked across vast distances through a phenomenon known as quantum entanglement. These effects have been repeatedly confirmed in laboratories, even though they appear deeply counterintuitive. That does not mean people can disappear into another universe. Scientists stress there is no experimental evidence that quantum physics allows humans to travel between dimensions, vanish from reality, or teleport through space. Yet quantum science is transforming the modern world. It powers ultra-precise atomic clocks that keep GPS systems accurate. It is driving the race to build quantum computers capable of solving problems beyond the reach of today's most powerful machines. Quantum physics is not opening portals to parallel universes. It is opening new frontiers in computing, communication, and our understanding of how the universe works. Sometimes the science is extraordinary enough without the might.
All right, viewers, this is World DNA. We are going to slip into a very short break. There's more on the other side, so please come back. And just a reminder to all our viewers in India before that break, you can watch all 2026 FIFA World Cup matches on Z5. Kylian Mbappe, Michael Olise, Ousmane Dembele, Ashraf Hakimi, Ismail Saberi will be in action as France take on Morocco in the quarter-final. Tune in, watch all the action.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. More than 200,000 civilian homes have been destroyed. This looks like it used to be a toy for a little girl. Can't but wonder while I'm walking between all of this rubble, how many lives were destroyed, how many kids were traumatized, how many women lost their families. If this isn't a war crime, then what is? From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Redi Francis for WION World is One.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Samiksha. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian leaves Iraq, heading back to Tehran after US launches strikes on Iran. He was in Najaf to attend funeral ceremonies of former Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, whose body arrived in the city on Tuesday.
US-Iran tensions escalate as Tehran reports explosions across southern Iran, including Qashm and Bandar Abbas. Iran claims US strikes hit civilian areas, while Washington says that its attacks targeted Iranian missile and defense systems.
Ukraine signs drone technology agreements with Estonia, Netherlands and Denmark at NATO summit in Ankara. The deal involves sharing Kiev's drone expertise in exchange for investments, royalties and military equipment.
US prosecutors charged Lawrence Bishnoi and Goldie Brar over alleged killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. A wider operation called Operation Hardball also led to 24 arrests linked to India-based crime groups involved in violent crimes.
K2 Airways Boeing cargo plane with 5 crew members goes missing off Karachi after reporting a navigation system issue. Pakistan authorities launched sea search after radar shows aircraft rapidly descending and losing communication.
Death toll from a landslide in China's northwestern Gansu province rises to 21 a day after it buried 33 people. State media citing local authorities says search and rescue operations at the site of the landslide have concluded.
Less than a month after its Wall Street debut, SpaceX joined the Nasdaq 100 under revised exchange rules, making SpaceX the fastest major index addition after an IPO in history. The inclusion places the company in index tracking funds, giving millions of Americans with retirement accounts indirect exposure to its shares.
Argentina staged a dramatic comeback to beat Egypt 3-2 and reach the World Cup quarterfinals, trailing 2-0 late in the match. Goals from Christian Romero, Lionel Messi and Enzo Fernandez secure thrilling wins for the defending champions. And we're getting more details about the latest American strikes on Iran. The United States military says that it hit over 80 targets during its latest strikes. US Central Command said that its forces struck Iranian defense systems, command and control networks, coastal radar sites, anti-ship missile capabilities, and more than 60 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps small boats in and near the Strait of Hormuz.
In fact, Iranian state media has reported numerous explosions around the strait, including 6 on the island of Qashm, 7 in the city of Sidik, and more in the major port city of Bandar Abbas. The Iranian military said that it would give a crushing response to US strikes. The statement went on to say that Tehran would not allow US interference in management of the Hormuz Strait and that the only safe route for commercial ships and oil tankers is one set by Iran.
The US president reportedly approved this strike plan for the US and ordered it while in Turkey for this week's NATO summit. According to Axios, Trump held a meeting in Ankara with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who flew with him on Air Force One. They were joined by Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chairman General Dan Kane and other officials who were already on the ground for the NATO summit.
And as we speak, a statement that's coming in from Galibaf as well, who says major MOU violations by the US, violating Iranian adjustments in the strait, persistent threats of further strikes, reinstating oil sanctions, attacks on southern Iran continued as part of aggression. The era of bullying and extortion is over. It leads nowhere. We do not fold, is a statement coming in from the Iran parliamentary speaker. Well, the remains of Iran's late Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has arrived in Iraq ahead of funeral processions in the country's holy cities of Najaf and Karbala.
And these are holy cities that are home to some of Shia Islam's holiest shrines. Iraqi state TV broadcasted the arrival of Mahan air flight that brought Khamenei's coffin to Najaf airport. Iraqi officials and senior politicians, including Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi, they were also there to receive the remains of the late Supreme Leader. The Iranian delegation included President Masoud Pezeshkian, who later departed after the United States launched fresh strikes on Iran. At the airport, red carpets stretched across the terminal's floor with large posters displaying Islamic calligraphy and a portrait of Khamenei.
Iraqi authorities tightened security around Najaf ahead of the arrival as large number of mourners travelled from across Iraq and neighbouring countries. They started arriving at least a day prior for a 6-kilometre procession that should culminate at the majestic shrine of Imam, the Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law and the first Shia Imam. After Najaf, Khamenei's body will be flown to Karbala around 60 kilometres north for another procession ending at the shrines of Imam Hussein and his brother Abbas. He will be buried on 9th of July in Mashhad, which is home to the country's holiest pilgrim shrine.
An Indian Navy warship becoming practically invisible and nearly impossible to spot on enemy radar. Just imagine that.
Well, that is the goal of landmark defense project between India and Japan. The two countries have agreed to jointly develop advanced stealth technology that could potentially reduce the radar signature of Indian warships, thereby marking a major leap in their strategic partnership. At the heart of the agreement is Japan's unified complex radio antenna, which is better known as Unicorn.
Well, instead of mounting several large antennas across a warship, the technology combines multiple communications and radar antennas into one compact structure, and that simple change reduces the number of exposed surfaces that reflect radar waves. The result is a smaller radar signature, making warships significantly more difficult to find, track, or even target.
Stealth technology has become a defining feature of modern naval warfare. United States uses stealth features on its Zumwalt-class destroyers.
While China has incorporated similar concepts into its Type 055 destroyers, Japan's Mogami-class stealth frigates also rely on reduced radar visibility to improve survivability during combat operations. For India, analysts say this is more than just a hardware upgrade. It is a strategic technology transfer from one of Asia's most advanced defense manufacturers. Analysts say the deal could enhance the Indian Navy's operational edge by improving survivability in contested waters.
During talks with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi during her 3-day visit to India last week, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the Unicorn program the first ever India-Japan co-development project.
Now, according to Prime Minister Modi, the project will open a new chapter in defence technology cooperation and strengthen maritime security, regional peace and a rules-based order. The agreement between Tokyo and New Delhi could also become the foundation for much bigger projects in future.
India and Japan are already discussing the co-production of Mogami-class stealth frigates in Indian shipyards under the Make in India initiative. The two countries are also exploring collaboration on next-generation warship propulsion, advanced fighter jet engines, and electric and hybrid motors for military drones.
For India, the Unicorn project is more than a technology upgrade. It represents a step towards building a stealthier and more advanced warship while taking India-Japan defence partnership into a new era of military cooperation.
In New York, an unstable skyscraper shut down part of Midtown Manhattan during Tuesday's morning rush hour.
Well, emergency crews evacuated a city block after two structural columns buckled inside the former Pfizer headquarters. It is now under conversion into luxury apartments, and the New York Fire Department rushed to the site after reports of falling bricks from the 37-story tower on East 42nd Street, near the United Nations headquarters.
Inspectors found two buckled columns, multiple cracks and sagging floors around the 21st floor, with crews that detected continued movement inside the damaged structure. Mayor Zohran Mamdani also said that the building remained unstable.
This is an extremely serious situation, and I am thankful to our first responders for quickly arriving at the site, and to New Yorkers for reacting calmly and with urgency. I am grateful to report that there have been no injuries at this time and that every worker has been accounted for.
Well, developer Metro Loft said that the damage is limited to a small section of the project and insisted that the building is not at risk of total collapse. Yet, authorities evacuated nearby offices, hotels, apartment buildings and a school with about 400 students. They shut sections of 42nd and 43rd Streets as firefighters and engineers secured the area. Local broadcaster also evacuated its studio during a live broadcast.
A little shocking, confused. I find that surprising that we're having in the middle of New York City an issue about a building collapse. Yeah, I don't know. It's surprising.
Engineers deployed drones to monitor the tower and plan to install emergency steel supports before entering the damaged floors to investigate the cause. The former Pfizer headquarters is being transformed into nearly 1,600 luxury rental apartments. It was expected to become New York City's largest office to residential conversion when completed in the year 2027.
If you look at the world's 50 most valuable companies today, and technology owns 22 out of 50 of them.
Well, oil and gas holds just 3, but the energy sector runs tech firms. In this next report, we decode the one sector that is broadly still running the world, despite what the stock valuations say. Take a look.
On paper, AI is ruling the world, but that looks like a changing of the guard. The trillion-dollar boom in tech still needs oil barrels. Nvidia leads the world's largest public companies with a market capitalization of $4.8 trillion, ahead of Apple and Alphabet, with technology accounted for 22 of the world's 50 most valuable companies. And compare that to energy, Saudi Aramco is the world's most valuable energy company at $1.7 trillion, followed by ExxonMobil at $579 billion and Chevron at $350 billion. But here's the catch. Investors are missing. Every one of those 22 tech giants runs on electricity that still has to come from somewhere, and right now, that somewhere is largely fossil fuel. The IEA's latest data is blunt. Global electricity demand from data centers grew 17% in 2025, while AI-focused data centers saw consumption surge 50%. Now that's the fastest growing power draw on the planet. And who's paying for the build-out? The largest technology companies pushed data center capital expenditure past $400 billion in 2025. Now that is expected to jump another 75% this year. The capex from just 5 tech companies now exceeds total global investment in oil and gas production. Yet even with that spending, natural gas and coal together are projected to meet over 40% of additional data center electricity demand through 2030, with gas remaining the single largest source in the US grid. The irony is sharp. Silicon Valley's trillion-dollar valuations depend on turbines, pipelines, and grids that Wall Street values a fraction as highly. Grid connection queues, gas turbine supply crunches, and permitting delays mean energy infrastructure, not chip supply, could be the real ceiling on the AI boom. Markets are pricing tech as a future and energy as legacy. Reality says they're the same trade. This is Bureau Report. WION World is One.
Well, from the world of tech, China is considering new restrictions on access to its most advanced AI models.
And according to a Reuters report, after holding meetings with some of the country's biggest technology companies to discuss protecting strategic AI technology, the move highlights growing concerns in both China and the US after treating cutting-edge artificial intelligence as a national security asset. According to this report, Chinese authorities have held talks over the past month with companies including Alibaba, ByteDance, and AI startup Z.AI. The discussions centered on possible limits on overseas access to China's most advanced AI models, including models that have yet to be released. Officials also discussed making the leak or theft of proprietary AI technology an offense under China's national security law.
Meetings were led by China's Ministry of Commerce, with officials also considering whether to restrict who can invest in domestic AI startups. Quoting sources, the report said that the proposals are still under discussion and may apply only to future AI models, with no decision yet on when or whether they will even take effect. The talks come as Chinese AI models such as Alibaba's Qwen, ByteDance, and Duobao's AI Glim F5.2 have gained global attention for their low costs and rapidly improving capabilities.
Now, any restrictions could have a wider impact on global AI markets, as businesses outside China could lose access to some of the country's most advanced and cost-effective AI systems. The developments also mirror steps taken by the US, which has imposed its own restrictions on advanced AI technologies, citing national security concerns and the risk of misuse by foreign adversaries. And Messi led a stunning late fight back as Argentina defeated Egypt 3-2 to reach the World Cup quarterfinals, while Switzerland beat Colombia on penalties to complete the quarterfinal lineup for this year's Football World Cup.
Argentina, the defending champions, recovered from a 2-goal deficit to escape a monumental upset against Egypt. Egypt looked poised to score a famous victory in Atlanta after goals from Yasser Ibrahim and Mustafa Zipo left them 2-0 up with just 11 minutes of normal time remaining. But Christian Romero's 79th minute header from a pinpoint Messi cross gave the defending champions a lifeline. 4 minutes later, Messi volleyed in an equalizer, his 8th goal of the tournament, to make it 2-2.
With extra time looming, Enzo Fernandez nodded in a sensational winner in the second minute of time added on to finally break Egypt's resistance. Fernandez's goal capped what had been an epic contest, which saw Messi miss a first half penalty for the second time this tournament. And Egypt have a second half goal ruled out in a controversial VAR decision. Furious Egyptian coach said that his team had been cheated by the decisions that went against them. The win was another nail-biting close shave for Argentina, who had been taken to the wire by Cape Verde in an extra-time thriller in the last 32 on Friday.
Argentina will play Switzerland in the quarterfinals in Kansas City on Saturday after Europeans edged past Colombia in Vancouver later in the day. Colombia had been tipped as dark horses for the tournament, but the dreams of an extended run ended in an agonizing 4-3 penalty shootout defeat when the match finished 0-0 after extra time. The win secured Switzerland's first World Cup quarter-final appearance, that is since 1954, when they hosted the tournament. Argentina and Switzerland's victories completed the quarter-final lineup for the tournament, with France facing Morocco on Thursday when the last 8 gets underway. And for now, let's get you all the updates from the world of entertainment.
Starting with British singer Lauren Bennett of GRL and 2011 hit party rock anthem. Well, she's died at the age of 37. Her bandmates announced the news on social media in a statement. Paula Van Oppen, Emmeline Estrada, Natasha Slayton, I quote, "Our hearts are broken. We cannot begin to express how much she meant to us. We will forever cherish the love, laughter and countless memories she gave us. A beautiful spirit, touched so many lives, and she will be deeply missed and forever loved."
Actor Matt Damon has said that playing Greek hero Odysseus in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey was the most challenging film of his career, with the director insisting on practical effects and real-world scale over digital shortcuts. The film, with a reported budget of $250 million, a nearly 3-hour runtime, adapts one of the oldest surviving stories in human history. The film also stars Charlize Theron and Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland and Zendaya.
Celebrated Hollywood actor, former wrestler Dwayne Johnson has shared a heartfelt message on depression after he had a moving interaction with a fan. During one of his talks, the Hollywood actor spoke about empathy and the importance of not judging others too quickly. In the clip shared online, Johnson is telling the audience about the importance of simply trying when an audience member breaks down. Later, Johnson directly addressed the fan and talked about his struggles with depression. The actor urged everyone to not be so quick to judge and said that everyone is going through something. All right, viewers, next up, here's a quick look at images drawing our attention from around the world. All right, viewers, with that, we call it a wrap on this edition of World DNA. Before we slip into a very short break, here's a reminder to all our viewers in India. You can watch all 2026 FIFA World Cup matches on Z5. Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, Ashraf Hakimi, Ismail Saibari will be in action as France take on Morocco in the quarter-final. Tune in to watch all the action live. Stay with us.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week, creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. More than 200,000 civilian homes have been destroyed. This looks like it used to be a toy for a little girl. Can't but wonder while I'm walking between all of this rubble, how many lives were destroyed, how many kids were traumatized, how many women lost their families. If this isn't a war crime, then what is? From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION World is One.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.